There have been many changes over the years regarding the disposal of our waste. I was curious to see how things had been managed in the past by a traditional dustbin man who had worked from the late 70s onwards, in order to see if we have moved forward or are lagging behind our European neighbours. I had this nostalgic notion that somehow we did it better in the past. But did we? I spoke to Mr. Tommy Allen, a retired dustbin man who used to work for Dunleary County Council, to find out what it was really like. He began by telling me how he became a dustbin man.
Well, it was sort of in the family at the time. My grandfather worked on the bins, I had two uncles that worked on the bins, and my father drove a bin truck most of his life.
To get a sense of what the job was really like, I asked Tommy to take me through a typical working week.
The way it worked on the bins, it was task and finish. So when you done your route that you were given every day, when it was finished, you went home. If you finished at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, so be it. Your day was done. Your route consisted, say you done Darky on a Monday, you done it again on Thursday. They got 2 collections a week at that time. There was no bins on a Wednesday. When you weren't, Wednesday came, you were sent out sweeping the roads on the Wednesday. We only worked on the bins Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Like it wasn't Dunleary at down, it was Dunleary Corporation. You were basically just in Dunleary, Darky, Blackrock, and the surrounding areas. Like you didn't go to up the far side, say up to Stepaside and all these places. That was all Dublin County Council.
This all sounded like the ideal stress-free outdoor job, but I wondered what the wages were like and how they made ends meet.
It was great working outdoors. You took the good with the bad. You had the summers, whatever, and you had your winter. You had rain, snow, whatever, but you look, for 8 months of the year it was great. And you had to take, as I say, the good with the bad. Since most of the lads that worked on the bins were excellent to work with. A lot of them aren't around today, but that's life. They talk about that and everything. There was a lot of nice people on the runs that we used to have our own teapot and cups and all in the truck, and there was always certain people that'd make a pot of tea for you and you could have it in the truck, or on a summer's day you'd sit on the wall and just have it on the wall. On every run you had a certain person that'd make the pot of tea for you. Yeah, no, the crack was 90. The lads loved it now, loved it. They talk about having their few points or backing their few horses or whatever they done. Game of football, game of golf. They were great days, great days. You'll never see them again anyway, never. It's not the same anymore. As you say, when you see the bin trucks there today, the lads come in and they barely even speak to each other. Like there's not a lot of Irish people working on the bins anymore. The money wasn't great. Well, it wasn't too bad. I was single at the time, it was okay, but like for married people the money wasn't. I don't know how they survived on it. Probably on the breadline though, you know. They weren't easy days, I'd say, for a lot of the guys that were married, you know. It did take up in the latter years, and it did. The money got a lot better, but in the 70s it wasn't great.
Curious to know what Tommy and the team he was working with may have come across on an average day's work, I asked him if he could share some details on the items they may have been asked to take.
Cookers, fridges, everything. People asked you to take stuff, so you had to make a bob or two on the side.
I was interested to hear what kind of things people used to throw out.
You'd have found, like, people would have threw out a lot of things now, like golf bags and all that type of stuff. They'd have bought a new golf bag and they'd have put the unit one out for the bin lads to take, but sure, look, it didn't go in the back of the truck. You could either use it or sell it on, you know, which happened, you know. Or people could have got a new set of golf clubs and throw out their old set. So the bin lads will use them, and you would have used them if they were anyway decent, you know. They could have said to you, they got a new fridge, that fridge is okay. Well, it didn't go in the back of the truck. Someone got use out of it, you know what I mean?
Given that health and safety is such an important part of any job today, I was interested to know if Tommy might be able to share the items that they would have considered health and safety at that time.
Oh yeah, you had your overalls and your set of rain gear and industrial boots and wellies as well for when it was raining. Regards to bags, you never knew what was in bags. You done what you had to do, like you had to do your work and you done it, and you know, you didn't want to know what was in the bags, you just picked them up and threw them into the back of the truck and that was it, they were crushed and gone. In them days, there could have been anything in the bags, there could have been syringes, we don't know, you know. You'd never touched anything without a pair of gloves on it, you know, at that time even.
Up to this point, the job of a dustbin man had been hard work for a meagre salary, but was by no means a chore. Tommy had been working with a team of light-hearted guys who filled his days working as a dustbin man with banter, crack and a lot of laughs. So what happened and when did things change?
More so when the wheelie bins come in. Like the wheelie bins came in 2000 and we were based in Dunleary. Like Dunleary was only kept on as a sweeping place and the bins were gone out there and we were all based then up in Sandyford when the wheelie bins came in 2000. And we are told through our union and that our jobs are there for life. And then came 2010 and they privatised it. It was either take early redundancy or go and work in another department, where some of us didn't want that. So there was a few of us took the redundancy, took the package. Like they kept telling us it's a job for life, it's a job for life. As I say, when we went up there, 2000, there was 20 trucks and you done 1,200 houses a day. And at that time there was no private companies in anywhere at that time. They weren't in on our areas then. You had 1,600 houses in a certain area, but you probably only had about 600 of them because the private companies had the rest. So it went from 20 trucks, 2 lads on them and the driver 3. It went from 60 people down to 18 in the space of 10 years. There was a package there, I think, in 2005 or 2006, and some of them took that. Other than that, you could have been shifted to the roads department, the parks or whatever. The guys that lost their berths on the trucks then were shifted from the bin section to the water department, maintenance or whatever. There was no use, we're not saying no use for them, but there was no work for them on the bins anymore. It's completely privatised now. They told us all down the years, yeah, your job's there for life, your job's there for life, and then bang.
With all of these changes and so many private companies picking up the general waste and recycling, this got me thinking about how it was being separated and where they were taking it to. I wondered if in those days when Tommy was watching the waste being tipped into the landfill, if he had ever thought about what might become of the landfill in years to come.
No, not at that time. Yeah, well, we see it now, like it's like a mountain up there, isn't it? Up in Ballyogan, you know. They had a recycling place up in Ballyogan, and then we were moved out to Ballymount out of the M50 there. That's where we used to have to go to rubbish then. But it wasn't like landfill, it was into a big sort of building and it was dumped and then it was all boxed off and sent off, you know. Actually, you wouldn't know what's there, you know what I mean? Like no one knows what went into the trucks 40 years ago. Like it was a different time. The one thing that I can't get over is with the recycling. If glass is crushed up and it gets into cardboard, how can you separate it?
Although in the year 2000 we brought in the wheelie bins to help divide up the waste in order to deal with the problem in an environmentally friendly way, we still seem to have mountains of material to dispose of. And I can't help wondering if at a core level we haven't managed to reduce our production of waste.
There's more rubbish now than there ever was. Sure, like anything you buy now comes in a box. You know, it's and packaging and foam and all inside, and plastic, everything.
With all this talk on how domestic collections used to be done, and the difficulties that arose in adapting to a new recyclable system brought about with the introduction of wheelie bins and recycle centres, I decided that it was time to see how the disposal of waste DIY style was being done at a local recycle centre in Gorey. There I had a conversation with one of the workers, a Mr. Eric Ryan, who explained to me how the current system is working.
I'm here at 8 o'clock in the morning. I open the gates to the public at 8:15, and the public will come. I'll kind of get a burst. A few coming in the mornings, then before the school rush, before they drop their kids to school or straight after school, things can quieten then till about 11 o'clock, where things will pick up, because I close at 12 o'clock, and they'll be coming quite strong then. But then my day is kind of directing people, because I get a lot of first time customers here, trying to explain to people where the products go, that it all doesn't go into the one spot and it has to be sorted. So a lot of people are convinced from their bin at home that it all goes into one, whereas when it comes here it has to be separated, which sometimes can be difficult to explain to people, but you'll work your way through it. A lot of people come here and then they decide they want to separate it here, or they think, oh, I'll just bring it up there and they can hand it to me, or tip it all into one bin in one big bag, and it doesn't work like that. A lot of people come here that when they come first, I'll give them a brochure of what we take, or I'll try and explain as best I can what we take, and I'll explain that the waste handler next door will then take the waste or whatever I don't take, and people are telling me that they're finding it cheaper than having a bin at home, that they can come here, get rid or use this as recycling, and then they'll go with their bag or 2 bags per fortnight or whatever it is. They said once they separate out correctly, their waste is very small, because we take food waste here. It's pushed from here into the container. The container will hold probably 3 tons, depending on the type of cardboard I'm getting. I'll empty the bin every week. Keep myself going.
And the plastic the same?
Plastic's the same, yeah. It's emptied every week. Plastic doesn't weigh as much, but you can fit an awful lot more into the skip, because it just keeps pushing and pushing. The reason we close for lunch here at 12 o'clock and we reopen at 1 o'clock is so that people, when they're working downtown, they can come up during their lunch hour, because most lunch hour is 1 to 2. That's our reason for being closed at 12. I think, I'm not 100% sure, that the other recycling centres tried staying open late a couple of evenings a week when they started first, and there was nobody using the facility past 5 o'clock, that everyone was just trying to rush home and get kids and want everything sorted, and we finish now at 4 o'clock, the same as everyone else, so it wasn't being used, so there was no point in us being here. Sometimes you'd imagine that they could use some of the products that don't recycle, that they could be changed to a product that could be recycling. I think a lot of it is just down to cost. And that's a personal opinion, that it's cheaper to use products that probably don't recycle, or maybe have recycled once and won't do it again. And I know a lot of even products that we don't handle or that don't recycle that well have been deprived from the leftovers of manufacturing products, and it is in a way being reused, but it only does it the once. I'd say a lot of it's just down to cost, really.
The last 20 years has seen many changes, in particular with technology. This can sometimes be hard for older people. I asked Tommy to share his experience of how the senior citizens from his working community coped with the change in waste disposal practices.
You go back in when we were on the bins and all, and even the older people living on their own, they'd come out with their little bag of rubbish. But they'd come out because they know that's to talk to. They'd come out and have a little chat with you, or You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm being honest, when we were on the wheelie bins, and old people would have wheelie bins, and they were putting them out every week. And you'd lift the lid and you'd look in it, and there'd be one bag in it. So I wouldn't empty it. I'd take the bag out and throw it in the back of the truck, because they'd be getting billed for a Tesco bag of rubbish. When the pay and weight come in, you paid for your lift and you paid for the weight in it, you know.
Recycling has become second nature to most of us, but are we doing as well as our European neighbours? I asked Danka Isler, a German national living in Ireland for the past 14 years, to share her experience of how she feels about the way we manage our waste in Ireland and how it compares to the way they manage theirs in Germany.
I've noticed that in Ireland people don't really are into recycling properly. They don't like doing it, like dividing it into the different articles like plastic or paper. They just want to stuff it in one bin and get it over with. It has gone better that we get offered different bins, like the recycling bin, that you have the compost bin depending on where you live, and that you have recycling centres where you can bring the different rubbish parts or recycling parts. But the same thing is you can't bring the same rubbish in any recycling centre. Some take this one, some don't take it, yeah. Some take electrical goods, some don't. Some take this plastic, some don't. You can bring paper, you can bring styrofoam, yeah. But some don't take that, so you're stuck with that, and they just put it in their bins at home and don't care what's happening after. I've seen 2 days ago in the news, I saw a program about the green bins that the recycling over here is not really working, that, for example, the contamination has been increased from 7% a few years ago to 40% because people are just stuffing their rubbish into the green bin that's meant for clean recyclables. In Germany, for example, there's a good system with drink bottles. You go into a shop and you can buy, say, a whole box with 12 bottles. You pay for the bottle, you pay for the box. And when you empty that, you bring it back to the shop, and you can kind of, bring the box back, get money for that, and buy a new box with the bottles. So the whole bottles get reused by the company that's supplying, say, you buy a box of beer, drink it, bring it back, get another box of beer. So you only pay for the glass bottles on the box once, and they go back into the system, the company gets it, and you get a handy box with it. Not like here, you have your single bottles and they just have to go somewhere in the recycling or in a glass container. So it's a very handy system. It's usually the council that's doing it, yeah. There might be a private company collecting the black bins, but the council is usually doing the collection of the bags. And they have their landfill that they use, say, for 20 years, and after 20 years it gets filled up, replanted, and they start a different area for a landfill. So people changing now to the reusable nappies. I think it's a good idea. It worked in the 60s. It worked, before they had the Pampers invented. Why not go back to that? I know it's more effort, but it's less rubbish, and you do something good for the environment. I was raised on them.
If they start charging you for your recycling, sure, people aren't going to recycle, are they? They'll just use one bin. So why would you fill 2 bins when you can just put it in one?
Tommy and his team really did sound like they enjoyed their jobs, working outdoors as dustbin men in all weathers. For them, every day was a new adventure. While the old system was unsustainable in the long term, I couldn't help feeling that we had lost an element of community spirit with the introduction of the new recycling system. It's not that the old systems are bad. They, like everything else, need to evolve by filtering out what doesn't work and retaining the elements that do. Let's hope that recycling will rekindle some of the community spirit by getting everybody involved in working together for the same end.
Waste Not, Want Not has been produced, edited and narrated by Fiona O'Brien. Thanks to all the contributors.